Basically, when you think about artificial intelligence, you have to understand that artificial intelligence is not just Matrix movies or what we say the gadgets which we saw in Marvel movies or the previous James Bond movies. Okay, so basically, artificial intelligence is the creation of artificial neural network. So I have kept an image here. All of you can Google it and you can find different images how artificial intelligence works. So basically, artificial intelligence is very loosely inspired by how a human brain is connected or created. So they have created these neurons or nodes, and this is how, like and these neurons, it's all created algorithmically. Okay, it's not by a proper blood and those things and all, but it is created algorithmically. And one of the earliest form of such a neuron created or a design of machine learning system was created in 1958. So it was called a perceptron, which is basically it was in an aeronautical engineering product, but it was the first known machine which had some sort of a machine learning in it or machine thinking in it. So when we actually look into the concept of what we say, the concept of artificial intelligence, you would be hearing about terms like deep learning, machine learning, etc. So I will also be discussing those concepts in the coming slides. So before we go to that, we have to understand it was actually in 2012 that the current boom or the current push in artificial intelligence technology began. So it was basically in one competition which was held in 2012. So there was an ImageNet large-scale visual recognition challenge. So the machine or the computer or the artificial intelligence enabled machine were given huge amount of data in the form of images, and this computer or the algorithm was supposed to identify the virtual images by using neural network. So in that particular one particular program called AlexNet, so it actually managed to classify 1.2 million high resolution image into 1,000 different classes. So these images were identified on the basis of specific characters or specific features which was prior fed to the program AlexNet. So AlexNet is like one of the initial, in the sense like the modern initial program which push forward the scope and capacity of artificial intelligence. And the definitions given for artificial intelligence, like we can actually trace it very earlier into 1955. So where John McCarthy in Dartmouth conference said, artificial intelligence will encompass every aspect of learning or any other of feature of intelligence can in principle be so precisely described that a machine can be made to simulate it. So here, through this artificial intelligence, an attempt is made. They are making an attempt to find how to make machines use language, form abstractions, and concept, and solve kinds of problems now reserved for humans and improve themselves. So basically, you are making a machine capable of thinking, of identifying the data it has, identifying a language, and then form abstracts and concept and solve the problems. So, for example, like when we try to cross a road, what happens? Like when you are trying to cross a road where there is no zebra crossing or when there is no traffic light, you are always trying to be very cautious. You would look to the left, you would look to the right, and you make sure that you have a time to score. You calculate in your mind how much steps you would require to cross that road and how much time would you be able to cross that road in doing that. So what I would like to I would like to share a video with you, which is like testing when. Let me just stop this video. Vipasha, I hope you would be able to help me whether you can share or see this particular video. Can you see this particular video YouTube window, Vipasha?
Yes, ma'am, the window is visible. We'll have to see whether the audio is coming through.
Are you able to hear?
No, ma'am.
It doesn't matter, even the visual image would be enough. So
Yes, ma'am, the video is clear.
yeah. So if this is an image of a robot dog. This is a robot dog created by Boston Dynamics. And this dog, so basically this dog was given a go command in the beginning of this video. And you can see that the dog actually, like robot dog, actually moving towards the door, and it is trying to enter the room. And you can see another scientist trying to stop this particular robo dog, and you see how it reacts. That would be from maybe from 42 or 45 seconds. You can see how that particular robo dog behaves. So just watch this short video. So in this particular video which we just saw, it's just a 1 minute video, but you can see how a machine, which is basically what we say, which is basically a machine fed with an algorithm, and how it is trying to enter the door. And I'm sure you might have noticed, like at least a couple of you might have noticed, the second time when it approached the door, how cautious it was. It is looking to the sides, it is checking that there is no one to stop him, and it was behaving exactly like a human being. But the point you have to notice that it was not told to behave like that. It was only asked to go into that room. So here you can actually see a robot or a particular machine learning from the situation and solving the problem. So when we see the Robocop, basically it's very like, it increases our curiosity. It looks cute, and those who are really into technology would be fascinated by the activity. But as a lawyer, what we have to be concerned is, if this becomes a normal thing, if machines are going to replace human, what are we going to do with the concept of legal personality? Whom are we going to make responsible in case of any challenges coming up? In case of, for example, in tort, you have to identify a principal and an agent. How do you identify the principal and an agent? How would you fix the liability? So these are the questions which are created for legal regime. So let us continue with our, I hope that particular problem solving which a machine can do was very clear in that short video. So originally in 1955, there were 7 aspects which were identified and associated with artificial intelligence. So this was one, simulating higher function of the human brain. So higher function of the human brain is basically problem solving. And then you have a computer which would be programmed to use a general language. And then you arrange hypothetical neurons in a manner so that they can form concepts. And then you have a measure and a way to measure and determine problem complexity, scope for self-improvement, and then the point of abstraction, where you can deal with multiple ideas rather than events. So that particular robo dog had an idea that if it goes straight with its head straight, it might be stopped from entering the room. So here It was the only idea for that robot dog is entering the room, and the only command is go. On its own, it identified the latch to the door. On its own, it identified that you have to move the latch to enter. And then the randomness and creativity that particular machine showed, like, it did not go previously in the way from that side, it moved the path in which it walked. So there is a creativity which that machine itself created. So in this context, now we are moving to learn what is intelligence. I'm not talking about IQ quotient or anything, but basically intelligence quotient or anything. What is intelligence? So intelligence is like when you are capable of performing better in a situation which was not previously encountered. So when a student scores very high mark in a very difficult paper, we say that that student is intelligent because that student performed better, which was not previously given. The previous question papers did not have that question, but the student was capable of addressing this new question in a better manner. That means the student is intelligent. So there is one aspect of intelligence, that is generalization learning, and second one is the reasoning, where you look into your situation, you form an idea, and you have a conclusion. So this problem solving and learning, these are the two elements when you talk about intelligence. So I'm sure most of the students, like, most of the youngsters in your generation, you are all fascinated with technology. You know more about space travel and Tesla automatic cars than us. So you know that when there is an unmanned vehicle on the road or a self-driving car, like, you know that this technology is already existing. I think 2 days back, the Tesla car actually identified the moon as a traffic light. That is the what they say, that is the other side of artificial intelligence. So even though you are capable of understanding rules similar to a human, are the machines capable of thinking like a human? So AI in the current, like, the current technological developments, it is manifested in different areas. There is machine learning, there is natural language processing. So now BBC news readers, they use Google Translate and other algorithms to speak in Hindi, to speak in Spanish. They don't even know the language, so they will speak in English, but the language translator, they automatically gets translated to Hindi or Spanish. Then you have robotics, which we just saw, like, which we just saw in that video, and then you have a pattern of recognition and knowledge management. So I have seen, not that much in law, but mainly in engineering or those who are into business administration, those who are doing their BBA. So when they fill their CV, we used to write the languages, as maybe English, Malayalam, Hindi, Tamil, etc. But now they write Python, R, Watson. So they have their own machine language. So your proficiency in machine language is going to be the key for your future. So this pattern recognition and knowledge management, all of them have become part of different manifestation of AI. Now AI, there are two major approaches. One is a strong approach where it is simulating the human brain by building systems that think, and in the process gives us an insight into how the brain works. But don't worry, it has not yet been completely achieved. Chinese claim that they have reached that stage, but there is no machine which is right now giving a strong AI. Then you have a weak AI, but that is a system which behaves like a human, but doesn't give us an insight as to how the brain of that particular machine works. So, for example, IBM has come up with a deep blue chess playing AI. So, this particular chess playing AI, it actually makes or processes millions of moves before actually making a move. So the deep blue chess is actually challenging a person. So by the time it makes a move within seconds, it is processing millions of moves. But it is not in a position to tell how those millions of moves have been processed. So that is weak AI. So you have a strong AI which has not yet completely achieved. Weak AI is mostly there. For example, you are writing something in Microsoft Word. Your Word itself corrects it. spell checks are there. You use a wrong uppercase alphabet, it comes and tells you this is a wrong one. You use have instead of has, it says it is to be has, not have. So that already, the weak AI is already there because it understands the data and it is processing the data and it's giving you a result. Now, in the middle of strong AI and weak AI, there is a middle system which is like, basically inspired by human reasoning. So one of them is IBM's Watson. So it reads a lot of information, recognizes patterns, and builds up evidences and gives a solution or a prediction. So one of the examples of where IBM Watson have made a major changes in US, the traffic light system. So you might have seen in the highways, 16 wheelers and 18 wheelers running through the highways. Okay, so uh, in the 16 wheelers, like the fuel consumption is very high. So the traffic system in US has developed a particular method whereby the cameras in the traffic or the highways would identify a 16 wheeler or an 18 wheeler coming and automatically keeps the light green throughout that particular 16 wheelers journey. So the benefit of that is that there is better fuel efficiency. There is no switching off and on of the engine, which would result in further fuel inefficiency. So Watson has created that impact where you can actually read a lot of information and then you are giving a solution. Solution is give green light through the highway so that the truck is fuel efficient. Another very good example of middle AI is Google Deep Learning. So in Google Deep Learning, they have nodes that acts as artificial neurons and mimics the structure of human brain by using neural networks for connecting information. So one of the best example, like what I said right now, Google Deep Learning, which is somewhat similar to the Cortana in Windows. If you're using a Windows latest version, you have a Cortana installed in it. You can speak to Cortana, right? You can tell Cortana what you need, or you have Siri in Apple systems, or you have Alexa in Amazon. So all these, I wanted to share the video, but I don't know whether you would be able to hear the voice of that. Uh, is there a way to share the audio also? Let me try.
Ma'am, 1 minute.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am, 1 minute. Let us see.
Yeah. Because a video actually makes a more impact than me explaining it.
Ma'am, can you please share the video in full screen?
Yes, I can, but I haven't shared it. I was waiting for the video. Will it be possible if I share it in full screen?
Yeah, at times we're not sure,
Okay.
but at times when you put it in full screen, the audio is also transmitted. So
Okay, let me try. Are you able to? Are you able to hear?
no, 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 no.
Okay, let me try one thing. I'll just start the.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes. Yes,
Usually,
Vipasha?
actually, it's Nandita, ma'am.
Yes.
Usually, there is an option to use the computer audio. So, if you are using that option, then we can hear the audios from the computer itself as well.
Okay, let me
Yeah,
just check. Give me 1 minute.
are you on a headphone, ma'am?
Yes, I'm on a headphone.
Yeah,
So
so
if I disconnect the headphone, would you be able to hear?
ma'am, try disconnecting it. If it does not work, please go to the right bottom corner of your laptop. You're using a Windows machine, right?
Yes.
Yeah, please go to the right corner.
Yes.
There'll be an audio option, and please
Yes.
change that option to computer audio.
Okay, let me try. But I think if you are able to read the subtitle, You can use that also, no?
Yes, ma'am. The subtitles are also fine.
Yeah. So anyway, I'll be sharing the video link to all of you, so you can listen to it later. So let me just share it with subtitles, so that
Yes,
we
ma'am.
don't waste this. So in this particular video, actually you saw how an AI program is making a saloon appointment. So there is no interaction between the student, sorry, between the person who is trying to make the appointment or the saloon. It is basically done by the mobile phone, where even the mobile phone is actually humming. So it is actually humming towards the. Am I audible now, Vipasha?
Yes, ma'am, you are
Yeah.
audible.
Yes. So what you actually saw is a phone taking a decision for a person. The person was not involved. So even the humming. So you can just imagine your phone making its own decision and getting into different scenarios. So here, if that particular person doesn't go for the appointment, who is responsible? Because the person who asked for the appointment wanted at 12 noon, but the saloon was not free at 12, but the Google Assistant automatically took it for 10 a.m. And you would see that within on the specified date, it will get a 10, you will get a notification prior to that appointment. So what you are actually seeing right now or around us is that there is so much of technology which is giving which is making our life much easier, but at the same time it is also creating a set of new challenges to law. So when we talk about what we say artificial intelligence, one of the most commonly heard term is machine learning, and you may have heard it as ML and DL, machine learning and deep learning. So machine learning basically refers to algorithms that enable software to improve its performance over time as it obtains more data, programming by input-output examples rather than just coding. So the weak AI is basically coding, where there is a code which is working and it gives you a solution. But when you are bringing in machine learning, it is taking it to the next level, because it's not just coding that is happening. The machine is going to read each and every data you are giving it into the machine, and then it analyzes the data. So when it comes to machine learning, the more the data, the better the output. So one of the most common example for this machine learning or ML enabled AI is facial recognition cameras which are installed by the state. For example, the monitoring cameras. You always see that, no, you are under CCTV observation. So that CCTVs, millions of data is entering that particular algorithm every second. Now, how the machine actually interferes or interpret that particular data. So the more the data they have, the better their output. So, for example, you might have heard about the human rights violation in China against ethnic Muslims, Uyghur Muslims, and other ethnic communities in China. So, how do the Chinese government, like apparently, uh, I don't know whether what I would be saying is politically correct, but the studies have shown that the Chinese government has introduced algorithms through their virtual monitoring, and these monitoring programs are capable of identifying your facial structure, your cheekbones placement, or your eyebrow shape, or your eye shape, or your chin shape. And by using the multiple data, which is like your facial structure, it is capable of identifying you as an ethnic person or an Uyghur Muslim or someone else, and then you are immediately sorted out. So that level of millions of data being fed to a machine, and then it allows the algorithm to match and identify various instances. That is known as machine learning. And we are actually more concerned. We are more concerned not by AI, but legal system is more concerned by machine learning and deep learning. So machine learning, this you can read later what is a machine learning and all. So on the other hand, deep learning is a subset of machine learning, and it implements various machine learning techniques in layers based on neural networks. But deep learning gives better results than machine learning. So I don't remember what was the. Have you watched this? What we say, movies where the machines take over the world. For example, Matrix was one of such series where the machine is actually taking over the world. So machine learning has gone a bit ahead or bit above the accepted level of input output interpretation. And here machine learning gives you more data and more outputs, but deep learning gives you alternate solutions. So these alternate solutions also provide you a situation where you cannot predict how that machine will behave. For example, the previous video which I shared, the robo dog. The second time it behaved, it was basically a machine learning. If it has gone to a second or third level of deep learning, that means it would have avoided every, it would have maybe crawled on the floor to avoid being detected by the scientists. So we are more concerned about deep learning and machine learning when it comes to the artificial intelligence and its impact on law. Now, one of the major concerns for both what we say scientists and anyone who is looking into AI is, how do you identify whether a particular program is artificially intelligent or not? So one of the most common, there have been many standards and tests which have been less, but one of the most common or most popular test is called Turing Test. So this was actually proposed by Alan Turing way long back in 1950. So here what happens is that a person sits behind or in front of a curtain or a screen, and a machine and a person is sitting on the other side of the curtain or the screen. So there is no visibility, and the person who is interacting with a person and a machine. So for example, here this person, or the C here, the C person here, he actually doesn't know who is sitting behind, but he is asked to converse and interact with these two people, and he has to identify who is a human being, who is a machine. So you don't see who is behind the curtain, but you are interacting with that particular two individuals or two things which is behind the curtain, and it's up to see to identify who is a human or who is a machine. So if this particular C is incapable of identifying or distinguishing between the machine and the human, you can say that that particular machine is artificial intelligence enabled. So this Turing test is even used now. So you can look like whenever you go into any shopping website or any website where there is a service. For example, you may enter Airtel website. Immediately, you will have a chat bot. A chat bot is a small window which will come up with a message that, "Hi there, I am here to help you. Hi, I am here to help you. Tell me if you need any assistance." So that chat bot is basically an AI manifestation. So when you are talking to a chatbot, most of us know, because we are familiar with the technology, most of us know that it is a machine. But the one who is not familiar with technology would very easily think that you are actually interacting with a human. But if you ask questions which are not which that particular chatbot is not capable of answering, you will be finding the difficulty. Like you would say, it would reply to you, "Sorry, I did not understand your question. Kindly let us know which is the category in which you are interested in." Or the chatbot will give you multiple options and you have to select. For example, you calling a customer care center. You are asked to press 1 if this is that, 2 this. So it takes at least 5 to 6 minutes to complete the machine conversation and get to a proper sales executive. So there are so this is basically a test. So this is a Turing test which is done. So it is very rare that a machine passes Turing test. So we cannot think that because it's such a simple test that everyone passes. But because with the third question, as we identify that you are not talking to a human, but you are talking to a machine, any person who is sitting before the curtain will also know the distinction between a human and a machine. So, the recently the only machine which was capable of passing a Turing test. So, even for Turing test, it is not much of a score. You only need a 30% of score after 5 minutes of conversation. So if the judges do not, 30% of the judges do not understand whether whether they are talking to a machine or a human, within 5 minutes of conversation, that particular machine will be considered as a human according to Turing test. Even though it looks so easy, only one chatbot, which was in 2014, a chatbot called Eugene Bushman, who had the persona of a 13-year boy. So he was recently, that is the only program which has actually passed the Turing test. And he secured the votes of 33% of the judges who were convinced that he was a human. But then, as everything else, the Turing test also has its own criticism. They say that a computer can be built with an ability to think, but it would not have a mind of its own. So here you can say that Turing test actually, opened, identifying ways in which you can identify whether that particular innovation would amount to an artificial intelligence or not. Now, what are the modern implications of AI? One of the most controversial topic right now affecting economy, cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrency is basically a virtual currency which does not exist in physical form anywhere. It is not a legal tender. It is not a cash currency. Cryptocurrency is created through a method of algorithmic process called blockchain technology. So there is no one who is actually having a money in their hand. But many real estate dealings are being now done in cryptocurrency. So how do you create the cryptocurrency? Basically algorithm, you add block to block, and almost 1 month back, El Salvador recognized cryptocurrency as a legal tender. That means you can purchase things using virtual currency. And cryptocurrency is not something small, it is a big threat to the normal traditional banking system, because cryptocurrency doesn't leave any proof of its existence. A person will have a virtual passbook, the recipient will have a virtual passbook, that's it. And there would be people like, they are called as miners, cryptocurrency miners or blockchain miners. So they compute this AI or they compute this algorithm to create the cryptocurrency, and they are rewarded with cryptocurrency. So it is totally algorithmic, totally machine created with no physical evidence. The government will not be able to know whether there is a financial transaction you doing using cryptocurrency, because it is highly encrypted. Only the what we say, the person who is transferring and the person who is a recipient would have an idea about cryptocurrency. Another one is robo directors in company. In Japan and in China, they have started introducing, you have heard about company, and company is always led by directors. Now you are identifying robo directors who will act as directors in company. Another problem is with relating to IPR, especially patent and copyright. So you know that patent is given to an invention and copyright is given to an artistic or literary dramatic work. So one is technical and scientific, the other one is artistic and creative. The problem is algorithms have been created to create new technology. So a software capable of doing permutation combination and coming up with a new invention. So IPR gives you an ownership to the patent or a copyright. Even designs are there, but I just took the example of patent and copyright. So who will be the owner? Is the machine who created that particular invention the owner, or the person who wrote the software which created the convention is which created that invention is the owner? No answer yet. No sort of consensus in various legal systems regarding the same. Another problem is copyright. So recently, in Japan, uh, they there is an algorithm which was fed more than 1600 words, and that particular algorithm wrote a short story using that 1600 words, and this short story was submitted to an awards committee, and it actually passed 2 levels of award. So who is the actual author? Is the software the author, or the person who wrote the software is the author? There is no consensus again. One of the most these are all, like, we can say that okay, it is an external thing, it's a commercial thing, it might not affect me. But the fourth one, biometrics and privacy, huge issue in modern world. Those who have heard about the Swami case and the right to privacy. So your entire biometrics, including your facial structure, your iris, your hands, your palm prints, your feet prints, everything, including your physical data, is already with the companies. So how would you ensure that this data is not used? So I know most of us are in the habit of using these digital watches like Google Fit or Apple Fit or iFit, whichever watch you use. The moment you go for an exercise or for a physical activity, this particular watch will measure how many steps you took and how many, what is your pressure, what is your heartbeat rate, and this data is then transferred. The big data, it's like billions and trillions of inputs, is transferred to different companies who are capable of making predictions based on algorithm and coming up with products. So basically, there is an invasion of privacy into it. But who is responsible? Another modern implication, or it is a manifestation which is in a positive way, that is robo-courts and virtual access to justice. You might know that China has already started a virtual court. So there is no human being present in that court. There is a virtual judge there, and you are supposed to give your submissions, and this particular court is accessible through a social media platform called WeChat. WeChat is the Chinese version of WhatsApp. So through WeChat also you can access this particular virtual court. Benefit, the number of cases which are disposed is quite fast. There is no delaying techniques, there is no postponing techniques, nothing. And most of the time it is basically what we say, compoundable offenses which are brought into the robocodes, because there might not be much of a witness examination there, but the document examination happens, your views are heard, and the algorithm decides how to take a decision on that. So robocode and virtual access to justice. So that is another way, like even though we have started digitalizing our criminal enforcement system with virtual FIR and digital all these things, but virtual access to justice is basically where you can go to a platform and request for legal advice. So I have a legal issue. Instead of going to an advocate, I can just go to a particular website and enter my problem, and that algorithm will give me the solution. So it will tell me how many cases have come in that particular line of legal issue, and what was the what we say average number when the plaintiff won the case, and what is my success rate if I go to a court. So this virtual algorithm which is providing me with multiple jurisdiction of decisions. You can, after the class, I hope that a couple of you would at least go and check into this website how these systems, you just have to tell in 2 or 3 sentences what your problem is, and the computer actually gets back to you with the decided cases, and how the judges would how the judges examine the witness, or what is the percentage of your winning chance. Another one is automated vehicle. I mean, with all the hassle and the problem Tesla is making, you know what it is happening, what is happening there. I mean, there is no man who's driving a vehicle. So an automated vehicle hitting someone, whom do you file a case against? Who should the insurance company file a case against? No answer there also. Then the most devastating aspect of AI is unmanned weapons, the drones, missiles, robotics, etc. So millions of drones are actually released to most of the civil war areas. And in India, right now in Kashmir, we are seeing how that particular unmanned drones, like unmanned weapons, basically the drones, which are seemingly released by Pakistan, is affecting the national security. So the unmanned weapons, you unmanned weapons as such is not the problem. When an unmanned weapon is capable of machine learning and reacting on its own. So, for example, suppose you are releasing a drone to a war-torn area, and you are giving an algorithm to it saying that you are supposed to kill people who are wearing military camouflage. The drone would kill, because the drone will only look into who is wearing a military camouflage shirt or a pant or anything similar to that, and you kill anyone who is doing that. On the other hand, sometimes you go with a facial recognition feature saying that you can kill anyone who is having a long beard, or who is wearing a cap, who is wearing a particular type of scarf. The drone doesn't distinguish between civilians and military. The drone doesn't distinguish between the targeted and the untargeted. It will only go with the information which is fed into it. And the problem again, in international law, there is no point of creating a liability when it is unmanned weapons. So when we look into these modern issues which are created, or the challenges which are created by AI, our basic problem, we can say, the basic problem will be with regard to legal personality. You all might have heard about legal personality. Legal personality is basically a juridical personality, that you have the capacity to sue and be sued. When it comes to a machine, how be sued? So this limitation, this is an artificial personality limitation for companies. You have this system of piercing the corporate veil, where you can actually look behind the company to identify who is the agent, who is the director. But when it comes to an AI enabled machine, the question is, how will we pierce the corporate veil? So this, even though the limitations, the notion of legal personality has changed. So, for example, when we say that a Hindu deity is a legal personality, or a Hindu undivided family has a legal personality, or non-human beings have a legal personality. So there is, there is scope of improvement. For example, women were not considered as legal person Children were not considered as legal person. Even now, you have studied contract, you know that the contract entered by a minor or a person who's insane doesn't have a legal validity. So that means there is no legal personality there. But the law has been capable, law is capable of recognizing new forms of entities and recognizing it as an legal person, as a legal personality. So there is scope for an artificial intelligence also to be recognized as a legal personality. So when we try to identify AI as a legal personality, we can see that these features like the intelligence, autonomous decision making, or ability to learn from its own experience, here it is basically the data which you input and the solution which you get, the memory, the planning complexity, and formality, or basically the analysis and the ability to manipulate structures. So these, what we say, these 8 elements or 8 features could help AI to be recognized as a legal personality, but still there are limitations to it because uh, the problem is, how do you place, where do you place a legal personality? Because even if it's a company, you have a group of people behind it. But when it comes to AI, it's basically software engineers at the first level, which is not a problem. A weak AI is not a problem to the law because a weak AI will be always made responsible by the people who work behind that particular AI. The problem is when it is a strong AI or basically machine learning or deep learning. When machine learning and deep learning comes into picture, you are not capable of identifying the software creator or the algorithm creator as a person responsible for that machine's action. So the RoboDog which created, the first time it is actually the software which made it go directly. But the second time, you have seen how it has changed its movement, how it has changed its perception of its surroundings. So if an AI enabled machine is capable of identifying multiple data and giving a fresh solution which was not envisaged by the software creator, who will you make responsible? And law cannot work without enforcing a legal personality to an entity. So either you are a subject of law or you are an object of law. So right now, AI is considered as an object of law. The subject is always the software engineers or the technician who's behind that particular AI. But the question is, AI is capable of becoming a subject of law. That means like a human being, it's capable of taking decisions. It's capable. So a completely, so recently in the Israel-Palestine issue, you can see that a dome, a protection dome, was created automatically. There was no human intervention. So there was a weapon system which said that if these particular things come into picture, you have to identify that there is a threat to national security, and you have to initiate the defense mechanism. And now, how that particular machine initiates the defense mechanism is a problem for us. So these are when you look into different legal systems, none of the legal systems have yet recognized what we say AI, artificial intelligence enabled, uh, what we say as a legal personality. They are still trying to put the responsibility on the creators of the software. So there is the question is, how do you make an AI liable? And even if you make an AI liable, whether it should be a criminal liability, whether it should be a civil liability, or the basic question, how will you make sure that the punishment or the penalty which is conferred or which is given to that AI will be sought out? We can't keep a machine locked in the jail. We can't keep a machine, we can't make a machine give a compensation. So who will be responsible for all these things? So this is one of the major concerns or major challenges. So these are like when I share the modern implications in all these aspects, all these elements, those questions of liability, identifying the legal personality, identifying whether AI is a subject or an object of law, and the type of liability to be created is a new set of challenges which the jurisdictions are trying to identify and trying to find a solution of. So many other times the jurisdictions have said. So Britain has not recognized cryptocurrency. India did not recognize cryptocurrency, but now we are saying that we would recognize them. On the other hand, you have a highly corrupt country like El Salvador recognizing cryptocurrency. You have multiple real estate dealings happening in California using cryptocurrency. You have robo directors actually taking a decision for a company. You have artificial intelligence script writers. You have artificial intelligence enabled software creating new medicines, pharmaceuticals. You have AI enabled machines conducting media, what we say, the clinical trials. So where are we ending up with? And we don't have a solution also to identify how to make it liable, how to ascertain a responsibility, and how to create a legal personality. So we have this is what I wanted to share with all of you. I don't know whether it was sort of at least it created a curiosity in you. So thank you everyone. Any questions?
Yes, ma'am. There are a few questions posted in the chat box.
Okay. Let me. Oh, it's only available to team members. I'm not able to access it.
Ma'am, I shall read them out to you.
Yes, please.
Firstly, Rudra ma'am has a question, whether you would please let us know about how AI can be used within the judicial system.
AI, as I said, there it is already has started functioning as a criminal code. So when we think about AI, you have to identify it as a program which is making a machine capable of performing like a human being. So the virtual courts which are already in existence in China, or the virtual judges, or a virtual system or a platform where you have advocates, software acting as advocates or legal advice. So that is one major scope for uh, incorporating AI into the judicial system. And it has actually given positive results. The number of cases, for example, all traffic challan cases or any other check bounce cases, all these cases are now dealt through virtual courts. So the efficiency of these courts are higher because they are not tired like human judges. So the moment you file a case, you get you don't file a case, the system automatically transfers it to a virtual court. So establishment of virtual courts, then availability of legal advice from algorithm. So when I said that I give, I have let me say a labor issue, and I'm feeding my labor issue to a particular website, the input I give is not to an advocate. The input is given or analyzed by an AI enabled machine, and it gives me the advice. So the role of advocates is quite less when AI is taking up the reins in legal advice. Am I clear? So anyone who posed the question, please post in the chat so that Vipasha can tell me whether you need further clarifications or not.
Ma'am, the Supreme Court had also recently embraced the SUPACE, right? Supreme Court Artificial Intelligence
Yes,
that
yes.
system. But wouldn't it require newer statutes to, for self-regulation?
No, Supreme Court AI is basically those who filed a case from Kerala to Supreme Court would always know the main challenge is the language of the document you are submitting. So most of the documents which we submit in the courts in Kerala would be in Malayalam. So all of them have to be translated to English, which is a huge task if we are doing it manually. So the Supreme Court has already in place, has kept in place a language translation system where that particular manpower has come down. And the other one would be mainly relating to listing and other things. It is not going to replace the judges in Supreme Court. So Justice Chandrachud, I think in 2018, he said in a Singapore conference on AI, he said that it is not supplanting the existing judicial system. Supreme Court is actually looking into supplementing the existing judicial system. So you are going to support AI become a data support or sort of an administrative support. So for example, whatever work a judicial clerk would have been doing would be now done by an AI enabled machine. So a new statute in that self-regulation at this point is not necessary. It's only when we replace the decision making, the judicial decision making with AI, that we would require a new stat, which is again like, when it comes to cases which require actual judicial interpretation and judicial application of mind. I don't think virtual courts would come to those series of cases. It would mostly into compoundable offenses or petty offenses which would be coming in. So AI, which is super, that is going to be coming up with Supreme Court, is not removing or replacing the existing system. It's only going to supplement and support the existing. So it's going to be an internal administrative supplementing, not a human resource supplementing.
Yes, ma'am. And there's another query. AI can also be used in data mining, which might be used for influencing customer choices. Would
Of
that
course,
not be against the right to privacy? Is
of
the
course,
question.
that is one of the biggest concern. So you do a Google Fit walk for 1 month, and in 1 month you will get all advertisement relating to best shoes for walking. If you go to your, like, not in the Google search page, but if you open any social media page, you will be getting multiple devices which would enhance the result of your evening walk. So, and again, not just the product advertisement. The problem is within, like, they will be they are capable of measuring your heartbeat, your pulse rate, and the machine can say in how long or in how many years you are going to get a cardiovascular disease. And accordingly, the pharmaceutical companies can approach you, not directly. It's always indirect. So you will get an advertisement, check your heart health, and you go and do the survey, and you say, oh, you have to consult a cardiologist. So it's like a big web where data mining is happening, what we say, in much, much more bigger than what we imagine. So there is another aspect to it. I don't know whether you have felt it, but it was surprisingly happened to me twice. So we were talking about a particular product, and that product was never searched by any of us in Google. But the moment we opened Instagram, the first advertisement was for that particular product. And we were like, what is it? Then I was teaching this paper for my LLM students. And then I realized there was one paper where all our phone speakers are always on. Even if you are not on call, it is capable of recording your conversations. And the webcams which you have in your laptop, if it is an electronic device, it is capable of being manipulated. So I advise all my students to close their camera app, either with most of the new ones have its own lid, otherwise you keep a sticker. It's available on Amazon. You always close your camera because anyone can record your things, take the data, and as you said, affect you both in a commercial and also in a non-commercial way.
Ma'am, so in the same line of thought, integrating more AI into the judicial system, won't it face a lot of backlash?
It would.
Because of this right to privacy line of thought.
It is. There is a huge issue. That's what I'm saying. But no one knows who is capable, who should be made responsible. That's the whole problem, right? There is no legal personality for AI. So it's like a book. Like, can your laptop be responsible for the searches you made? When the police comes and you can say, no, no, I didn't do the search. I just gave a couple of words and my laptop searched on its own. The police will not accept it because you are responsible behind it. But your laptop is actually capable of doing that. You saw Google Assistant automatically changing the timing of the salon appointment.
Yes, ma'am. And then
Any,
another query.
yes.
If we take Roscoe Pound's definition of law as social institution to satisfy social wants, how can we expect AI to know something know something of society, social ideas, ethics, morality, etc.? So is not
Seriously,
using AI
see,
in the judicial system against the very purpose of law is the question.
no, the thing is, maybe your computer and your phone knows more about you than yourself. Which color you prefer, which things you prefer. So the traditional thinking is almost over. Roscoe social engineering is basically now done by data mining and data companies. Data analysis. Actually, Python does the social engineering now. You don't do the social engineering. Legislators don't do the social engineering. Companies don't do it. It's Python. It's R or some program like that, which is reading your data and predicting how you are going to behave. So your prediction is then transferred to a policy. So the social engineering is there, but in a much minute and bigger level. Like, it's massive now.
If any other attendees have questions, they may post it in the chat box or directly ask ma'am.
Should I just share this particular PPT with all of you so that you may be able to? Gigi, Gigimon,
You can
can
share it.
people?
You can share
Yes,
it in the chat itself. I mean,
yes. Oh, but I'm not able to share. I'll do one thing. I'll send it to
you can just
Gigi
send
and
to
he
me,
can
then
share.
I
Yeah.
will share.
Yeah. Any further questions?
Nandita Pradeep has a question.
Yes, ma'am. Nantita has asked whether you think there's a chance that in the future AI is going to play a much greater role, especially in the judiciary.
Of course. I would advise all my students to learn coding. At least learn Python and R. Otherwise, you are going to be outdated. I'm going to learn R. I mean, like I'm 14 now, but now I have started a basic course on R because I know I will be redundant in 2 3 years if I don't keep in pace with the technology. You people won't recognize us as teachers. You will go to Google right now instead of going to a class teacher. Most of your first thing is to Google, right? So the profession of teaching has become redundant because Google search is there. Similarly, the virtual courts and the virtual legal advisors are really going to undermine the role of lawyers. Already, like that most of the drafting, 95% of drafting is done by AI nowadays. They have templates. The drafting is done by them, so you don't have an option there. So it is in high risk. Keep running or be outrun.
I think we have no more questions as of now. Thank you so much, ma'am, for answering all our questions with care and clarity. It's been a truly engaging session and an eye opener to the current evolving process of law. I invite Rima for the vote of thanks.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is such an honor for me to get the opportunity to thank all the respected dignitaries present here. Honorable Chief Guest Dr. Kavita Chanikal, Director Reverend Dr. Father Isaac Punamutan, our Principal Professor Dr. John PC, Vice Principals, teachers, and my dear friends. I'm extremely privileged to thank our chief guest, Dr. Kavita Chanikal, who took out her time from her busy schedule to grace the event for enlightening and enriching our knowledge with your words and guidance on this topic of artificial intelligence and law. I also extend my heartfelt gratitude to Director Reverend Dr. Koshi Isaac Punnamutan, our Principal Professor Dr. John PC, Vice Principals Professor Dr. Thomas Kuti PG, and Professor Ramachandran Nair, and our Head of Department Dr. Jijimon VS, faculty members, and attendees. Once again, on behalf of Mar Gregorius College of Law, I extend my gratitude to all my esteemed delegates for their presence and contribution to make this webinar a great success. Thank you.